Hello, beautiful souls. Today I want to connect the past, the present, and the future in a single timeline. A timeline that stretches back hundreds of thousands of years and may help explain many of the events unfolding in our world today. Because according to Elena and other researchers, whistleblowers, human history did not begin with the civilization we learn about in school. The story begins much earlier, around 372,000 years ago. That was when a group known as the Anunnaki allegedly arrived on Earth. And from that point forward, the course of humanity will change forever. One of the central figures in this story was Enlil, a being who later appeared under many different names throughout his story. You can find the clues of his name and his existence. There are many clues. Focus on the IL letters end of his name that all connect to one person. His influence can be traced through ancient texts, mythologies, religions, and cultures across the world. Enlil's goal was to establish control over humanity through genetic manipulation, creating a population that would be easier to govern and manage. But there was another figure involved, his half-brother Ea, also known as Enki. And unlike Enlil, Ea discovered extraordinary genetic blueprint already present on Earth. Instead of limiting human potential, he chose to enhance it. By combining his old genetics with early hominid species, he helped create what later became known as Adam and Eve. And that decision changed everything. Because of it ignited the first great conflict on Earth, and a conflict between two visions of humanity's futures, one based on control, the other based on awakening potential. And from this timeline, multiple wars followed. Ea eventually lost. He lost his son, he lost the war, and he left. He left Earth carrying what is described as a deep sense of betrayal. For a very long time, he did not return. Meanwhile, Enlil's influence continued shaping the course of human civilization. Human lifespans became shorter, control structures became stronger, and new systems began emerging behind the scenes. Systems that would eventually evolve into secret societies, hidden networks of power, and organizations designed to influence humanity from the shadows. Over time, these structures became what many people would later call the Illuminati, the deep state, or the shadow government. Whether one accepts those terms or not, remains the same. Power operating behind the visible stage of history. And this is where the timeline becomes even more interesting. Because humanity's story was no longer only about Earth, it became connected to bloodlines, hidden agendas, non-human civilizations, and eventually the modern disclosure process unfolding today. Two major bloodlines are said to have influenced human history. the royal bloodline associated with Enlil and the sacred Abrahamic bloodline associated with Ea. Their influence can supposedly be traced throughout much of recorded history. Another important part of this timeline involves the Sikaar, often described as the reptilian beings. They infiltrated civilization from within, influenced major historical events, and worked through positions of power rather than open conquest. Researchers even connect them to advanced technologies, secret programs, and hidden aliens that operated throughout the 20th century. There are technologies, secret programs, and hidden aliens that operated throughout the 20th centuries made by them. The story continues into World War II. The defeat of Nazi Germany did not completely end certain hidden operations. They did not fail. They just left Hitler there and then they withdraw to Antarctica because parts of those networks relocated to Antarctica, where they continued developing secret technologies and eventually became connected to what later became known as the Dark Fleet. Then came one of the most famous events of the modern era, Roswell, in 1947. The Roswell incident allegedly introduced non-human technology into modern classified programs. Shortly afterward, organizations such as the CIA emerged. The MJ-12 program was established, and an entirely new era of secrecy began. An era involving advanced technologies, non-human intelligence, and hidden agreements. One of the most discussed questions concerns the Galactic Federation of Worlds. Why did they come to Earth? As I knew there were more species from outside the Earth, I will come back to this in future videos. Now back to the Galactic Federation of Worlds. They arrived in 1952. They warned the United States government against cooperating with gray extraterrestrials. They offered an alternative path, a partnership focused on protecting Earth rather than exploiting it. But another path was chosen. The gray groups allegedly presented themselves as future humans. They traded. In exchange for access to human genetics, they offer advanced technologies. Agreements were approved. You can find it in the books of Elena Dannon. There are a list of agreements. Underground facilities were built, and large-scale genetic programs reportedly began. This led to one of the most controversial subjects in disclosure research, the hybrid program. The objective was not simply collecting DNA. It involved long-term genetic experimentation, human abductions, the creation of hybrid beings, and attempts to establish a future presence on Earth through genetic integration rather than direct invasion. Why not invade openly? Because direct intervention would have triggered a response from the Galactic Federation. A hybrid program provides another route, a way to gain influence without violating large interstellar agreements. It's kind of universe agreement, and that under operating by the Galactic Federation of War. 2021. 2021 became one of the most important years in humanity history. The year of many awakened, liberation. The moon was liberated. Mars was liberated. Antarctica was liberated. The Dark Fleet was defeated, and control over the solar system shifted. Another major event allegedly occurred in October 2021. The collapse of the Nabu hive. A hive connected the Gray with the Sika, the Nabu behind the scene. Once that network fell, many of the systems dependent upon it reportedly began collapsing as well. Much of humans on Earth have been awakened. Stars is awake and start remembering their mission. And their energies extremely affected to the Earth. They started doing their missions, and everything on Earth has changed. I started practicing Falun Gong in 2021. Yeah. The story continues with the arrest of Enlil in late 2021. There were so many events occurred on that year, isn't it? Enlil is the highest level of leadership. Behind many hidden control structures was removed. The dog. But although leadership changed, many systems remained in place. And that brings us to the present moment, disclosure. According to this timeline, disclosure is not a single event, it is a process, a carefully managed sequence of stages. There are three phases of disclosures. Phase 1 involves increased sightings UFOs, orbs, metallic spheres, and unexplained aerial phenomena becoming impossible to ignore. Phase 2 involves information, the release of documents, the discussion of Roswell, Area 51, reverse engineer technology, MJ12, and hidden programs that have remained classified for decades. This phase has already been logged in Trump's website that he created earlier this year, 2026. You can find all of the evidence there. And phase 3 leads toward something much larger. Open acknowledgement that humanity is not alone, and recognition of our place within a wider galactic community. First contact will not happen all at once. It will happen gradually. The first civilizations introduced may look very similar to humans. They have been walking among us for thousands of years, or I would say hundred thousands of years. They look similar to us. They walk, they live, and they are everywhere. You cannot guess who they are. And later, contacts may involve beings who appear increasingly different. The purpose is simple: allow us, humanity, time to adapt. Because beyond all the stories, the ancient civilizations, the hidden programs, the extraterrestrial presence, and the disclosure process, the core message remains the same. Humanity must learn to unite, to move beyond divisions, beyond fear, beyond race, religion, politics, and ideology, to remember that we are one human family. We may look different, but it doesn't matter. We are all from one. That is matter. We vibrate in frequency. That's matter. It doesn't matter if you look different to others. It doesn't matter if you have different things in your life to others. It doesn't matter at all. But frequencies is the only difference between beings, any kind of beings, not only humanity, is frequencies. That's why star system, they want to raise up their frequencies. Of course, they wanted to help us to raise up the frequency to keep peace. And of course, they also can grow up through that process. So the frequencies, remember that, is the only thing that is matter in this universe. Relationships, famous fame, anything. No. We are just playing a game. Playing with that things that those things belong to the matrix. Once we still believe in that thing is when we are still being programmed. So just walk out of that program and focus on the frequencies. Because the future that is now emerging is not only about disclosure, it is about responsibility, about consciousness, about the kind of civilization we choose to become. A future built on peace, advanced technology, environmental restoration, abundance, and eventually our integration into a much larger galactic community. And before we finish, there is one more thing I want to leave with you. This June, a movie called Disclosure Day is scheduled to be released in theaters. To many people, it may look like just another science fiction film, but it is a part of the contact plan, part of the gradual disclosure process. Phase 2 was completed in May with the release of disclosure documents under the administration of President Trump. Information has been released step by step, not all at once. And now, as we move into June 2026, the next stage begins. The preparation of first contact. June is not just another month. June may be remembered as the month humanity took its first public step toward first contact. So pay attention to what unfolds from this point forward. Observe, connect the dots, study yourself. The timelines has shifted. The disclosure process is accelerating, and the next chapter is already beginning. The first contact process has already begun. The only question now is how quickly humanity is ready to see it. It depends on each of you. I share more about it in my future videos. May the truth within you always guide you. Until we meet again, it starts raining.